I'd like to welcome Dorota Proba, a Polish filmmaker, the author of a film Między nami, Between Us. And I'm happy that we can have this interview and discuss your film. So let me welcome you here. Thank you.
Hello, I'm very happy to be here tonight.
Thanks for attending our Q&A, even though it will be much better in person after the screening, but the situation is not good for this kind of opportunity. Hopefully, we will have this opportunity after this COVID mess will pass.
Definitely.
Yes, I'm able to allow our participants and to get them in the chat room. So just a practical information that if anyone wants to ask any question, please use this Q&A button to type down the question, and I will read the question and we can answer it throughout our session, our conversation. Of course, we can also give you a word. You can turn on your microphone and you can ask directly to Dorota about the film. I hope you all have seen the film, so we can discuss it in detail. So this film, Między nami, Between Us, is briefly the session of three couples who have direct and intimate conversations about their relations, about their love, about their common life. It is an interesting concept, and you can see that the concept is based on questions which they have prepared on tiny cards, and they just raise the card. So it reminds us some kind of game, truth or dare or something like that. So if you can tell us how this concept was created, if it was the original idea, and also maybe the next following question is, how did you find these three couples, and why these three couples were the main characters of your film?
Mm-hmm. So I will start with the very beginning. It all started nearly 4 years ago when I was planning to get married with my husband. And we were planning to get married in church. And in Poland, in the Catholic Church, before you get married, you need to go through a so-called pre-wedding course. Then this doesn't sound very good, but we were very lucky. Someone told us about a great pre-wedding course. We ended up in a monastery not far from Warsaw, closed for 3 days, and we were supposed to talk to each other. That was the main idea. So it wasn't like it is usually that there is perhaps a priest who would tell you what is good, what is wrong, but we were the ones to figure it out. And just like the characters in the film, we got questions and we were supposed to talk to each other. So we had this very honest conversation for 3 days, and we were surrounded with 25 other couples going through more or less the same idea. And for us, it was a great experience, very strengthening, and it was something very, very important to us, surprisingly. And at the same time, we could observe other couples who were going through many different emotions. And there were also couples who, after having such an honest experience, perhaps the first honest conversation in the last weeks or months, maybe even years, they decided to break up. So I've heard that around 10% of the couples who go through this experience decide to split. Mm-hmm. This was very surprising to me, and I even know such couples. And this kind of impact, when I realized how strong the impact of such a conversation can be, that's when I realized that this could be a great starting point for a documentary film. So initially I was planning to film in the monastery, but it didn't work out, and I'm very happy about it. We didn't get the permission. So I started working on an idea inspired with what happened there. And thanks to this problem, this obstacle, I could invite many different couples being in different situations with different starting points, different experience. And that's when it started to be really interesting. So your next question was about
why exactly these three couples?
Why these three couples?
Yeah.
So of course it was a very, very complicated process to find any couple who would like to take part in this project. It took me nearly 3 years to film the couples, and I filmed 10 couples. And first I was looking just for anyone who would try to take part in it. And of course I wanted this experience to be something very important for the couples. So first of all, they would go through this conversation, and then after having it, they would decide whether they want to publish it or not. So this made it a little bit easier. And of course, probably tens or even hundreds of times I've heard people refusing. But nearly every time after such a conversation with a potential couple, I would hear them ask me if they could get the questions. So they would not take part in the project, but they would really like to talk to each other. So that's when I realized that it might be really, really difficult to work on this project, but probably it is worth the whole difficulty. So later on, when I started having more and more couples interested in the project, I started to realize who I'm actually looking for. And I knew that I want 3 completely different couples with different experience. And I was also pretty sure I don't want to repeat stories that we know from different sources. I wanted to listen to stories that are not told yet, that I haven't heard that much of. So I filmed 9 couples, and then I started working with the editor on the film. And then I was very lucky because my editor told me about a couple that is finally in the film. It's Zuzia and Marek. It's the oldest couple. Mm-hmm. And that was exactly who we were looking for. We were missing that couple. We knew we wanted the 2 other ones. And that's when I thought that we have completed something, that the story is full, that we have many different perspectives, and that they interlace, I would say. So that was the goal. And there was a third question.
Well, I think we can go back to the third question. But basically, we wanted to find why exactly these couples. So the original idea was to have more of them in case it would fit somehow.
At a point, we had 4 couples on the timeline, but that was definitely too much. We couldn't follow. It was 8 characters, and we decided to focus on 3, to go a little bit deeper, but only 3 couples. So the idea of filming 10 was not to show all of them. From the beginning, we knew we would have more and less in the film, but it was always such a surprise what would turn out from such a conversation that we just had to try. We couldn't predict. Somehow I had this intuition that this couple could be very interesting, or this story could go that way, but every time it was such a surprise that after recording, we could try to make some decisions.
And how many hours of conversations you had? Because I suppose this is only the ones which fit in the idea and the structure of the film. So was it hours of conversations of the couples? Or?
Yeah, so we had 10 conversations, and the shortest was 1.5 hours long, and the longest was 4 hours. So it depends, but still, it wasn't 3 days. It was I would say quite a short session, but very intensive. So we would never stop the conversation. Once we started, we would never stop, because I thought that well, apart from the stop that Marcel makes during the conversation, but yeah. It's a short unplanned stop, the pause, that was also very interesting for the film. But we didn't plan stopping, and that was also one of our aims while we were filming, not to interrupt and to allow the characters to forget about the camera. And many of them were telling us that this is what exactly happened, because these questions are so engaging that after 2 or 3 questions, they would really forget about the camera. We were 4 girls working on the set and trying to disappear, trying not to make one single noise. And what the characters were telling me is that they would really feel comfortable and forget about the camera.
And you had only one camera or more, because sometimes you had to switch angles, or you have details of the characters. So
we had constantly 2 cameras, and even in the beginning of the project, we had a 3rd camera, but we thought it makes no sense. We focused just on 2 portraits, and yeah, many filmmakers were telling me it's better if you have 1 camera, it's more vivid, more real. But I'm very glad I was working with 2 cameras, because it was so much easier with the editing process.
Yeah. And I think we didn't mention where do these questions come from? Is it from the course you mentioned, or is it?
So yes, of course, it is in a big percentage inspired with the questions from the course. But I was also working with a psychotherapist who helped me form other questions and make sure that it goes in the right direction. I was, of course, a little bit afraid of this experiment, and she was there to make sure that everything goes right. And finally, we had around 30 questions for each couple, and they were a little bit different depending on their situation, but the basis was the same for all of them.
Also, part of the film, there are this homemade footage, these I would say found footage, but I wasn't sure if it's made on purpose, or if it was this couple's archives which you used.
Yeah.
So
it was their archive. So initially I had a different idea for the whole film. First of all, I thought we would divide the film in 3 chapters. First the first couple, then the second, and then the third. I thought we are just not allowed to mix and to jump in between, that it's just too intimate. But then I met this editor who made me realize that it is possible, but we need some kind of possibility to take breath in between. And at that time, I had some additional footage that was more or less the style with the squash scene. So it was way more planned and somehow arranged. But you called it found footage. So exactly that's what happened. I just came across Carolina's and Marcel's footage from their wedding, which is finally not in the film. But when I saw it, I thought, we can continue on and try to find like real scenes, but nothing will be as real as the found footage, the films that are not planned to be published, just for the home archive.
Yeah.
And so I was very lucky. From Carolina and Marcel, I got 4 hours of phone filmed footage. That was very, very intimate, very close, and they just like filming each other. So that's when I realized that's what we are looking for. And then I got some more footage from the other couples, and we just tried to make a puzzle out of it.
Yeah, I think it works really well, that it brings another level of intimacy in the film. And also, as you said, it just works as some kind of laid back moments, well, a part of the Russian couple, obviously, where you can feel the tense in the relation, and you can feel that this is probably the 10% you mentioned of the couples who just split after being so honest and so intimate, and raising the crucial questions about their relation. So I think it works at the very end, really, in really proper way, how we can go even deeper and even closer to their relations. So this is what works really well. Maybe I would go deeper in your inspirations, because probably you are a person being involved in filmmaking, documentary filmmaking, for some time, and some moments reminded me, for example, some documents made by Krzysztof Kieślowski, for example. So I'm just thinking whether you have any filmmakers who you would admire and who would follow consciously or even unconsciously.
Yes, so of course Kieślowski was somehow there, but at a bigger point, there's Pavel Łoziński, which made this film. I'm not sure if I know the title in English. It's You Don't Even Know How Much I Love You, something like that. And he made this film around 4 years ago, and that was a very, very important reference for me, because I knew that my idea for the film is somehow counter intuitive. It's not very film. It's not the film language to observe dialogue for 50 minutes or even more. So Pavel Łoziński made a film where I cannot say everything, because it's kind of a secret or a surprise. You just have to watch the film, but it's about the relationship of a mother and a daughter, and there is a therapist in between them. So you can observe a session of psychotherapy, and it lasts nearly 1 hour, 20 minutes, something like that. And that's when I realized that it is possible to listen to a conversation for such a long time on the screen and have only portraits. Of course, it's extremely difficult to keep the emotions, and for a very long time while we were editing, we couldn't actually keep these emotions. You know, the story was not developing as it should be. So it was a very difficult task in terms of editing. So there was this film that was a very, very important reference. But I also had many non-documentary films that were very important for me. For example, Blue Valentine, a story about a relationship that was very beautiful in the beginning and very, very difficult after a couple of years. And it is a non-documentary film, but the style is still very, very documentary-like. And even though it's completely different, I could share the emotions. I thought that's what I want the viewers to feel, to be in this emotional roller coaster. Apart from that, there is Force Majeure, a very important film by Östlund that is about a couple who goes to the mountains and has the feeling that everything is okay, and then all of a sudden it turns out that it's not. So this confrontation is something that was very, very important for me, and these were references that I was watching on and on just to stay in these emotions.
Okay, thank you. I think it's Pavel Wojcinski's film is definitely the one I might forgot. I shouldn't forgot, because this is a good reference, of course. I think we have time to open up questions from the audience, even though there's a small number of people listening, but still, please feel free to ask the questions, whether you use the button Q&A and just type the question, or you can just raise a hand and you can join us in the conversation live, even though we will hear only your voice and sound. So feel free to ask the questions typing in, or just raising virtual hand to ask the questions directly. Okay, so before we have questions from the audience, I would just ask another questions about your author intentions, which I'm not sure about. I would expect at the very beginning of the film that you might be tempted to give some background to these three couples, maybe to say something more about what they do, what is their work, something like that. Have you been thinking about it, or was the concept just based on this intimate relations without any background from the very beginning?
Well, this wasn't that important for me. If it came up through the conversation, maybe that could be interesting, but it's not that much about emotions. It's more about facts. And I was looking nearly only for emotions. That was definitely the filter that I put on. So some conversations were 4 hours long, and the parts that were only about facts just went to the side immediately. I thought it's just not that important, that it's not it's a different story. And I thought that what's most interesting for me is to show or to explore the subject of connection. I have this feeling that now there is a huge need of connecting between people, and I can observe it while I'm showing the film, while I'm talking to the audience, that very often after watching this film, couples decide to have exactly this kind of conversation. They try to repeat the whole the questions they've heard from the film. And I've even heard of a couple who couldn't resist and was pausing the film after every question. And they were having the conversation just in the meantime. And I'm also very glad that the film is apparently therapeutic. A lot of people say that they can see their own story in it, even though these are only 3 stories, 3 couples, you would say completely different couples, but somehow so many people can reflect in it, can think of their own story, their own situation. So I'm very happy that it works like that. And I think that's also because of emotions and not facts. I think that's part of it.
Yeah, I would totally agree, because it's as it's packed with emotions, and as it raises the crucial questions, it definitely could be used as a therapeutic tool for many. I would ask about the fate of the film in this turbulent times, because in Ji.hlava Film Festival, it's been screened online. Hopefully, there will be chance to see the film also offline in cinemas. So, is it the case of the film in Poland, for example, or at any festivals which are not being strictly online?
So first we had the Polish premiere in Kraków, and all of a sudden it became online, and I was very, very disappointed. And we were planning to go to Kraków all together with all the couples, and I thought it would be the wonderful premiere. And it was very, very strange because it was at the time of total lockdown, and because of that, the characters saw the film at home by themselves, which is such a difficult situation for them. And I was very afraid they would misunderstand maybe the way the film is interpreted or so. And to some extent, maybe it happened a little bit. And then I was very lucky because in September, we could show the film in a cinema in Warsaw at Against Gravity Film Festival, which is a great festival, and the atmosphere is wonderful. And all the couples, no, sorry, not all, two couples came, and they could talk to the audience and listen to great stories and great reflections upon the film. So that was something we've been all waiting for, and it happened only once at one festival. The film was screened 4 times, but since then we're switching online again. And I've heard that for the next couple of months it will be all online.
Yeah, well, that's not a fortunate story for a film which should be screened.
It's not, but on the other hand, I can see that it becomes possible to watch a film by people who would maybe not have the possibility to come to a cinema because they have children, or they live far from the capital or from bigger cities, many different reasons. And I'm surprised that so many people have watched the film, and I'm very happy because we're going through very, very difficult times now, and this film is so much about emotions, and apparently it warms up people. It's important in this very moment. So I'm trying not to be disappointed about the fact that we're showing it mostly online. I think there are some advantages about that.
Yeah, sure. I absolutely agree, because this could be one of the moments when you start to focus on something else than just information about numbers of people being infected and all the negative news we get. So it maybe helps people to focus on the closest person living with them in one household. So it definitely could work this way, and hopefully it would work this way as some kind of transmission of important issues in people's relations. So I would ask again whether there are some questions, because we are slowly getting to an end of our Q&A. So please feel free to ask the questions to Dorota about the film, who have seen it. I hope you have seen it. So you can use the Q&A button, or you can just raise virtual hand and we will unmute you and you can talk directly to us, join our conversation. Now we've seen that the film probably would be a good good therapeutic tool for people being locked down and sitting at home and being able to watch. So I would just remind that this film would be available also for Czech audience within the film festival for another 2 weeks, so they can watch it as part of the festival offer of quality films which are being made in past 2 years. So now maybe we will move to your current situation as a filmmaker, because as we can see that you are you're staying at home as most of us do. So my first question would be if you are trying to reflect on the situation as a filmmaker. I mean, this pandemic threat we are facing, and also this lockdown situation, which is quite tough for many people to be closed at home, to be locked down in their homes and not being able to live their social lives. And the other question is your future plans and ambitions once we get to normal and you will be able to shoot and work on your future projects.
Yeah, so concerning the pandemic, of course, I have a lot of reflections about the situation, and it is horrible in many different aspects, but fortunately, personally, I have the chance, hopefully it will stay like that. I didn't lose anyone among my family or my friends, and nearly everyone who has went through COVID is doing well. So apart from that, I must admit that I am happy to slow down. Even though it's been already many months and I could get bored with it, I'm actually very happy that I can pause a little bit and reflect and do many different things that I didn't have time for. Me and my husband, we have so many friends and we used to have a very intensive life, sometimes maybe too intensive. So now I try to focus on things that I couldn't do previously. I just didn't have enough time. And I also ended working on my film, which was a very, very intensive time, nearly 4 years. And this is just the perfect moment for me to rest a little bit. So concerning future plans, well, I am very happy to see how the film works, because it was a very difficult process that was very emotionally tiring for me. And at a point I thought maybe I would never do it again. But now, as I can observe how the film works and the impact and how important it is for so many people, I become more and more convinced that it is worth it. So I don't have any specific plans. I am observing the world and trying to let things happen. As I had this experience 4 years ago with my husband, it turned out so unexpectedly, and something that I wasn't expecting to be interesting became so interesting that I was focusing on it for 4 years. Perhaps something similar will happen in my life, and something will engage me so much that I will be willing to spend so much time on it again. We'll see. Who knows?
Okay. Yes, the time will show us what are your directions in the future. So I will just go back to the starting point and just ask about your course you passed, you went through with your husband. Does it mean that it had a happy result then?
Yes, definitely. We got married. We're still together.
I think that this is the good marking point at the very end of the film story, to hear that although you raised the questions and you probably talked about these questions with your husband, the result was positive, and
Yes, we passed the exam.
yes, great, you passed the exam. Okay, I think our time is up, so I'd like to thank you, Dorota, for attending this Q&A, this discussion, and for extending the experience with your marvelous film, Między nami, Between Us, and Dorota Proba. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And hope to see you in person in Ji.hlava next year, or somewhere else.
Hopefully.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Do zobaczenia.
Do zobaczenia.
Bye-bye.